Okay. I'll try to cover quite a bit in this one. Starting off, I chose to play that first Diminished video offline. Yeah, I got it that point and decided not to go further. And in the last video, I showed you how it sounds. I mean, that's the major diminished, and in this video we will get into the major diminished and what all is up with that, as well as into those full diminished chords I was playing around with. That whole thing. We'll get into all of that and what those are and how they're made, and we never talk triads on this channel either, but there's only 4 of them, and well, it takes some different formula to explain all this, so we will eventually get into that in this video. But yeah, I just need to start things off doing something that was just normal diminished. Because we're not just doing a straight scaling it, we're breaking up. We're breaking up the positioning. So, I mean, doing a standard 5 application, because we're not staying in this long. I'm going into something that I used from the short to end it. So, different formula entirely in the end there. We're just kind of showing that, you can make things that sound good at a diminished. I joke around about how bad it sounds, but it can be used. Yeah, I mean, there are worse things. We got a journal to work off of in this one, but there are worse things than diminished. I mean, I joke that diminished sounds bad, and I mean, it kind of does. I'm using resolution with the 5 note too, but alright, diminished, real diminished. With no resolution chord of any type applied. So I mean, that's what it sounds like. It's a chord, a scale, and if you use it as a key formula, all of them, they beckon resolve. They beckon resolve. But alright, but that was done to show that it can be sequenced and used to sound good. And alright, there are worse things than diminished. So, a group of music shop owners, I guess they got together at some point for a convention, and they voted on what could stay in their stores and what had to go. Diminished got to stay. Jimmy Page and the Stairway to Heaven, they decided that had to go. If you don't believe me, try to walk into a music store, see how long you last playing the Stairway to Heaven versus how long you last playing the Diminished chords. And, yeah, for some reason. Alright, but yeah, it's all just a bad joke. It really is a joke. It's just a bad joke. It's a joke. But, yeah, I mean, she buying the escalator to heaven and a slinky too. Hey, come on, if you're gonna buy the escalator to heaven, you might as well get yourself a slinky. What you gonna do when you get to the top? Alright, but yeah, it's a bad joke. It's all just it's a joke. It's a bad joke. It's a joke. Alright, but yeah, we're gonna touch upon a lot of the diminished things. We're gonna be building up to both a kind of a song building lesson on Diminished in the next video. Well, we might as well start touching on some other types of formulas now, because we're gonna be, we can't do just timing lessons in the future. We got to be able to break up that monotony also. So we're gonna do some formula. We've been pushing things quick. I decided to travel into a 9-note formula and show off some different types of scaling that we can do out of that. I thought that all deserved explanations, and it led to a couple extra videos. And then I got to thinking, okay, since we're breaking into all this augmented type formula, we might as well do some diminished type formula too. So yeah, here we are with the diminished is odd whenever it comes to our triads, and we'll get to that eventually. Alright, we've done a lot of scaling with these past lessons, but we've never really got into too many mode sequencing. That's one of the things that I kind of wanted to do in this video, not just those other two things, but I mean, it'd be nice to do some little bit of mode sequencing. Well, that's kind of what I did with the Castlevania part, that song that I built into the Frankenstein, Frankenstein in a C key to a G key. We need to talk about that one too. It's not just this one. That one's got so, but alright, it is legit. I mean, what I'm bringing it from is, alright, our real song, our Silence of Daylight song really is a, so it really, and I start it with the mute, like I'm doing the muted intros for all these. I'm trying to show that off. I'm using this as an I used that song, the real song, as an opportunity to show those off, to kind of show this can be used. Castlevania does it sometimes. I don't think it's as heavy in the real thing. I think I'm emphasizing that, but I'm trying to teach here, so if I add in a few things here and there, it's just kind of part of what I do anyway. Alright, but I'm doing the, actually the other ones are supposed to be clean, so it's supposed to be, and then I'm doing this thing down. D hammer onto F, G, F, C, 5, D5, G5. So we're all in the key of C. We're not leaving the key of C. We've got a nice little mode established for the key of C. We know what we're working from. Well, that's what I'm doing with the other one. I'm just starting instead of doing the D, F, I'm working a B to a D, E E to D. So the B to D is a hammer on, the E to D just hit them. But I'm using an E5 chord, a D5 chord, just 2 notes, and a G chord, just that G and that B off that 3 and that 2 string. And everything else is coming off that. Wait. That's it. Been a little while. So everything is still essentially just a different mode of the key of C. I'm just switching it over. Now with this mode that I've moved it to, though, we never have an actual F note, nor do we ever have a C note appear. And then with the next part that we go into, we have an F sharp note appear, but we also have a D sharp note appear. Okay, I needed for that next part to be the key of C, and the C chord showed up and everything, but it really isn't. We've moved on to the key of G, and we're already plugging in a diminished chord, or a diminished note, not a diminished chord, a diminished note, being that D changing to the D sharp, because you hear it. You got the E minor starts off going to the B, so right there we already have it showing up. E minor then goes to the D, so now we have the D note showing up. We've got that F sharp note in there also, along with an A note as well, because it's just a D major chord. Then we get the G chord resolving to the D. Then we get that C chord, but we don't resolve to a chord. We break off into some notes, and it enables me to get to the next part, which is what's going to move this one. I like putting 3/4 things. I like it whenever timing changes happen. So this was an opportunity to include a 3/4 part into a 4/4 medley. So I kind of enjoyed being able to do that, and all of these are coming from something else, I believe. The first one I know is Silence of Daylight. The second one, I think it's also Castlevania. I just forget where it's from. I forget which song. I forget which video game. I know it's not 1. I don't know if it's 2 or 3. I don't know. One's the one that's my favorite. I've got a whole entire medley I play off of that one. Not all of it included, but I mean, quite a few, the first few, I try to get 5 or 6 stages in. Straight play. It makes for something long and fun to do. Yeah, with this one, it's just the... Okay, it does go all the way. And then we get to the next part. Next part is an interesting one. It works a G in the low end, G augmented in the high end. So it's kind of coming off the last thing. But the last thing's using the D note showing, it's more of an insert. It's more of a plug. We're not using it as a dominant plug, but we're using it as it's fair plug. It stays in the high end, but it's still getting utilized. There's D note coming in right there the next time we do it. So first time, that D sharp. Second time, that D note. Just a plug. Chromatic plug, but it's not being used chromatically. Alright, getting back to the part I was just about to go into, the actual 3/4 part. This is, of course, pulled from something else. It all is pulled from something else. Just trying to do original things with other things. So, finding things that fit the key theory that I need to move into other things, and trying to find a way to utilize those things to where they're It just makes something new for the ear, really. Oops, I switched them up. I didn't get that D note in the end there. This one's fun though because you have it where the first time it's going whenever it finishes. Let me go from the other part. But the other time you would do it with the low D. So first time high D, third time high D, but second time low D, fourth time low D. So one more time. Then we go into Frankenstein, which I believe would be that's it. Been a while. These are not keepers. These were done for the sake of hearing some cool things, some cool connections. But again, we didn't quite move a C key to a G key. We know what this is from, but because we never establish a C note or an F note in the beginning there, and once we do go into establishment, we wind up with a C note and an F sharp note. We could call this a G key from the get-go. So, but again, I know what I was pulling from. It was meant to be a mode of Silence of Darkness. So, you guys know where it's from now, and you know how. Okay, yeah, it's kind of a tricky thing in the beginning there, because once you get the key established, it is pointing to G. So, yeah, I said it was key of C moving to the key of G, but you can just look at it as starting out in the key of G, just not revealing itself, and finally having a revelation phase of a key of G, but already popping in an augmented note into the high end. But I also wanted to get you guys going back to this one, all right, never mind any of the things we've seen before. Once we travel from a C key, from a C chord into that little melody, it almost looks like we're going into something E minor also, which would be another great choice of a direction. It'd just be different notes, but it'd be a great choice of a direction. We'd still have our G note in there, our F sharp. I mean, it almost our A note. I mean, it almost looks like that's where we're going. So it would just be another really, really appropriate direction. But what we're doing instead is the G augmented thing. It's just slightly different notes, slightly different formula. In the augmented's case, we're going to encounter that step and a half segment in our scale. In minor case, we get those 5 whole step intervals. So which one do we want to have to work with, which sounds? And I mean, it was kind of selected for me by what the other parts were doing, connecting it all together. But okay, with this part right here even, of course that's even coming from somewhere. That's coming from, and I tried to include some of this in the description, but I know it's not like hearing it. So this is coming from all comes from something else. All right. Next up, with the modes, because I'm not going to get the Castlevania part. I do need to mention, once we do move into Castlevania, we are getting into a slightly altered key formula again. Castlevania takes us into the proper G augmented formula, but even with that, we're flatting a B flat. We're flatting the two notes. We're sharping a two note. We're not flatting the two note. We're sharping the two note B to. So yeah, even with that, we've got a sharp two that that's adding for a little bit of a extra texture to the parts, mostly showing up in the in-betweens that I'm doing. But that's in order to get us to the scoob part. When we get to the scoob part, we're going to be working a G key, but it's going to have some complementary things going on in the high end through chord charting, but it's also going to have a B flat note plugged in there. It'll still be utilizing the A note, but it'll have a B flat note plugged in. That's the B flat note, and it ends on a B note, so it's just a different way of, it's the same note from before, but now the A note's included also, but just a different way of going about getting that alteration in there. And again, whenever we're working that kind of formula, it's all from that 9-note formula that, starts off that G position, or that we scaled up to from a standard just straight G key, but we inserted a flat 3, we inserted a flat 6. Next thing we know, we've got a 9-note formula to where we can scale it down to get all these different, I don't even call it, just smaller key formulas, and now you have a couple alts that you can choose from out of those smaller key formulas that are considered good. But there's still, if you're breaking down through two guitars, and one guitar is supposed to be covering this end, one guitar is supposed to be covering this end, you have those interaction notes. They're good alts, but they're still alts for your end. I like breaking things down that way. It works, because I've been thinking about this a lot. It doesn't just work for, the main thing it works for is building your own songs, creation. But it also works for picking them out. It also works for understanding what other people are trying to do through their music and trying to grasp the theory of covers and things like that too. So, it works. It either works or it doesn't. And, it works. We did a couple other things with modes, and so one of the ones that I'm beginning to, we'll get to it soon enough, so we might as well do now, is I showed this at the beginning of one of the cover videos that started this long cover medley built off the B note. One of the explanation videos led off with this same thing right here. This song also has a part that goes into a let me get it right. it's kind of just, there's a different thing going on to it, but ultimately it's still out of the A key, just like this one is out of the A key. Just a different mode. Everything's lining up the same though, just a different mode. Figured I'd show that part also. I didn't do it originally, so I want to show modes. I should have. Alright. And then you have something like, we did Fly Me to the Moon, to where it was. But if we're in the F key, we shouldn't have a C sharp note in there. So either and this is either or choices here. Either we're, because both of these are correct. It's whatever you want it to be, whatever's best. Because unless the original musician who made the song is going to tell us what the intention of that person was, then we're kind of left. What's the easiest way for us to interpret it? So we could see it as some type of chord charting, to where we're kind of, we got that F key dominating everything, but in our three notes we have something like a D minor key kind of picking up for us, giving us the options of the F note, giving us the options of the C sharp note in tandem, and pretty much keeping everything else yep, D minor. Everything else would be natural. No sharps or flats. So, or we could see it to where in this position we're just going into something that's more F augmented. And if we're going into something that's F augmented, it tells the other guitarist, oh, there's a change right here. And actually, I believe this is the vocal track, so it's not the guitarist that's doing this probably. It could have been very well the vocalist that was like, oh, I can throw my voice like this. But it works out to where you've got some A scaling going on there. It's a really cool, you see something that's in one key, something else shows up. It's a really cool way of seeing how something major, something else major, something in A major, the third note, can show up in something that's F, but in the right alternate place. So, alright, we're still on the B flat chord, but we're already setting up to a G sharp note. We're already beginning to alter things. It would be either the sharp 6 or the flat 7 in conjunction with the B flat chord. However, with the F key, it's not a note that belongs in there. With the A key, it's going to be our major 7th. So we got that. My bad. I need to go to a C sharp. We never get a C note. We never get a C sharp in there. So it's only the latter end of the A scale that we're going to go into, but A chord. You see it kind of going. I'm going to do it one more time, because that you just heard the B flat chord go into the A chord, and that's what we're working here, is that portion. So, it's trying, even within the B flat chord to resolve to that A positioning. It's beginning to, but we're still in a key of C at the time. Also, this is one that does kind of like with Wish You Were Here, we have a G key solo, but what was it? A G key song with a D key portion of a solo to it. I mean, it's kind of doing the complementary key thing with the solo. We got another one that's doing that, except it's doing it through the vocal track. But whenever it goes past the A chord and starts resolving into the secondary chord part, what would follow, what would kind of repeat the pattern, but it would end not on an A but on an F. That one would go with a proper F key formula. We're no longer going to see B notes. We're going to see B flat notes show up. Not often, but you see, you know it's F at that point. You know it's F at that point. You know it's changed. And again, because with quite a few of these, we've been doing vocal tracks that stand out, and that's another. That was one of them. That was one of them. All right. But we need to move back into real diminished. What I did today was with standard 5. What I did with the shorts, they were altered diminished formulas, but again, with standard 5 application. Details in the description to all of this. Eventually, I know about, like, you can put the links to things in the descriptions too. I need to link these videos up better. This 9-note formula that came off of that long covers medley pertaining to a B note start point, and that what was supposed to be kind of a, just an emphasis on, we're going to use one mode, but it's not going to be one mode because we're going to use a bunch of different keys, and it's a mode of each one of those keys. It's always going to be that same B mode, but in conjunction to what key formula we're working at the time. It made for what I felt was a very appropriate, necessary video, and I didn't do that for other people. That's one I've been that's one of my covers. That's a go-to. It's a go-to. I love that thing. I play that a lot. Usually I have the Elfman part in there. There's a couple other things I can insert in there. But that's the main portion of it. But I wanted to do the Elfman ones singularly as shorts because we were running those during the holidays. It's kind of like this theme, that theme, this theme, that theme. So I kind of wanted to keep that going. We were working up to those, those are the fun ones. And then a Beetlejuice, of course, which we did in one of the longer videos. That's a fun one too. I didn't explain all of that. I'm sorry, but it was meant to be for now done for the 5/4 parts. I'm sure we'll go back to it. I love it. So. Alright, I've only got one page here, so let's get through this. We done Castlevania, we got that out of the way. Alright, major diminished and its chromatic positioning. This is one of the problems with major diminished is, okay, let's say we take it from the E flat. E flat, F, G, that's major. Our 4 note is going to be our A flat, but if we're going to do a flat 5 note, it's going to wind up being an A note. So we get stuck with chromatic positioning right there. So that's one of the reasons major diminished doesn't quite work. It's not the main reason, but it's one of the reasons. But it does work. 12-note modern day formulas, it works. What we've evolved music into, we can make this sound good. We can make this sound good. I'll be proving that in the next video. I got Beauty, and it was made from one of those 6-note, or one of those, the 8-note one we did from the short. It's a beauty. Alright. But, I mean, We do. We encounter that chromatic there. So, I mean, whenever you keep diminished minor, you don't encounter that problem because it's whole step, half step. Then you have to get the whole step to get to the 4 instead of a half step to get to the 4. And then it's a half step to the flat 5. So you don't have whole step, half step, half step. You have whole step, half step, whole step, half step, which breaks up the chromatic positioning. One of the reasons, not the main reason really, not the oldest reason. Let's go ahead, let's step into the time capsule, let's get there. Alright, and we're traveling back in time to time before the major key even existed. I mean, they knew how to do formulas for it, but there were other options back then. And back then, they came up with this thing to where they used this semitone and this tone to get whole steps and half steps. Well, really, the semitone is the half step and the tone is the whole step. And they figured out that these tone things, they worked really, really well for melodies and little spin-off little things you can put together, like it worked really well for that. But whenever it came to making chords out of them, no. But then they figured out this minor and major step sequencing. A step and a half is the minor, and 2 whole steps is the major. So 3 frets, 4 frets. So, and well, they started building chords out of those, and they decided that that was the holy grail of chord creation, but it required 24 notes, 2 full octaves to create out of this formula. And that's where all of our chords come from. That is the basis of chord creation. That is like that's what we recognize as very, very, very important whenever it comes to chord creation theory. But again, this is the major minor step formula for chord creation. It takes 24 notes, so we're going to be working 2 full octaves, and everything is going to be based off of major or minor movements through our note patterns. Now, does major, minor, one moment please, yeah, major, minor, major, minor, minor, major, minor mean anything to anybody? Because that's our major key. And the first 3 notes of that major, minor, major to minor, root, major, minor. Include the root at the beginning there, of course. Well, that's our first triad. I know I've never talked about triads on this channel, but it takes this formula. Let's introduce it. There's only 4 of them, but we're going to learn why the major diminished is not a triad and real diminished is a triad. But there's a problem with the diminished formula whenever it comes to chord creation and our key, our major key. But again, they don't necessarily, like, one came before the other, and it was definitely chord creation came before key creation. We had to figure out how to do it before we learn this is the intricacies of it. But okay, with the major, minor, major, minor, minor, major, minor, that is our major key formula. The first 3 are going to be our major chord. Those are our notes in our major chord, except the one note is our root position. The 3 note is going to be our second position in this case. The 5 note is going to be our 3rd position, and if we went on from there past the triad, we would arrive at our 7th chord. And, well, that's going to be our 4th position. We continue from there, we get to our sus2, which is, well, in this case in the 9th position, and it is our 5th positional note for chord building. On from there, we get to, well, sus4, and then the 6th note. So that's our formula. And then, of course, the minor step back to the root. That's our final. The minor, major, minor. That gets us to 4, then 6, and then back to 1 again. Back to root again. That's the end of all of these. Our minor one is going to be minor, major, major, minor, minor, major, minor. It's going to make up the triad, the first 3, the minor, major. That's going to be the triad for our minor chord. The next one's going to be major, major, minor, 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 major, minor. That's going to be the diminished key, the diminished scaling option. I call it the key formula for diminished, or for augmented. Augmented, major, major, minor, 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 major, minor. Oh yeah, that's augmented. That's the scaling formula for augmented, or the keying formula for augmented. The minor, minor, that's we'll get into that in a second. But okay, with major, major, well, we have an augmented chord formula. So let's get an augmented sound going here. Let me get it. That's something you'll be hearing in the next video. Speaking of the next video also, I get to a part where I'm calling this an augmented or a diminished chord. It's not a diminished chord, it's an augmented chord. Same with if we were to change it to this. How did that go? That would actually be flat 7 position, not augmented position. I knew better. I knew better than to call this a diminished chord. But it has the diminished, it has that tritone in there because of that 2 note. Like I've got a 1, a 2, and a major 3 note all in the same chord in close positioning. Now, again, I'm a chromatic modern day guitarist. Any inversion works, close positioning works, it just makes for weird sounds like this. Not something that really desires to be strummed, it desires to be picked as a chord, but it makes for a beautiful chord. It's just, it's close positioning that we're using to create this. So it has a very particular sound to it. Yeah, I'm accidentally going to call this a diminished chord in the next video. It's actually, it has a tritone in it. It does have a diminished position into it in comparison to that 2 note. But it's actually a 1, a sharp 5, a 2 note, and a major 3rd. If we were to change it and bring our pinky down on the C sharp note, it would be a flat 7 version. So it'd be, it almost makes me like it even more. Instead of augmented, it's going past the 6 and going to that flat 7 / sharp 6. So more close connection in the high end, in that medium end right there. I wish I could have found a way to use it, but whenever I'm talking about this one in the next video, I'm talking about the chord that I like that I wasn't able to find a way to use yet. So if I can find a way, eventually a part will be worked for it. And I wanted to show it to you guys because maybe y'all would be like, oh wow, that sound. I can think of things to do with it. So it gets it out there, and it's one more sound to hear, if nothing else. Alright, but okay, now we got to go into the diminished triad, which is minor, minor. Alright, think about this. Minor, minor. We can get to a flat 7, or we can get to a 6, a flat, flat 7 position. Our minor triad works, or our diminished triad, our minor, minor, works as a triad. It does not work past that position with a major key formula, though. We have two options. We have the full diminished, which is actually the flat, flat 7, the one that goes to the 6th note. And then we have just the normal flat 7, which would move to the both interesting chords, but yeah, one of them is the full diminished because tritone right there, and the flat 3 note has its own tritone to it. The full or the half diminished, you still have the tritone with the 1. You get resolved with the 3, but it still sounds wicked. Resolving into something. Okay, if this is an actual 6th note, I'm resolving to something that's like sharp 5 from the actual B flat formula. So it's still weird, and that's not one of the diminished options whenever it comes to I'm just playing around at this point. But yeah, whenever it comes to full diminished, this is the real one, because it is a full diminished. The 3 note also has the tritone to it. This one is the half diminished, which, you know, half step forward on that last one, but it doesn't have the tritone. It's got something that's actually resolving a bit. And your key formula, I mean, kind of decides what you're going to use, and then you can always alter things. I mean, you can always push something in there with an alt as long as it sounds good and you're working it properly. And your ear in the song will tell you that. So these are things that we needed to touch upon. So again, we cannot, through a major minor chord building formula, we cannot get to a major diminished position. It's impossible. But we also can't complete the key formula through diminished like we can through the other triads. They work. Diminished key formula, it takes us to, we cannot get to that 7th position. It takes us to flat 7 or flat flat 7. We cannot get to that 7th note that we need for a major key. So, but that makes for fun too, because you can build different types of formulas from the diminished. Also, whenever it comes to moving past key and going into like 36 and 48 and really trying, I mean, yes, you can do that, and this is stuff that we can produce some numbered patterns off of that involve both keying and key formulas. using the simple 24, but going beyond and actually like what goes where, what interval takes me to where. Yeah, yep, this is some of that. This is some of that. But okay, we've covered the four triads. We've covered the formulas, and again, diminished. I mean, minor for the diminished, and then your next minor takes us to the full diminished, but your next major takes us to the half diminished. So we just cannot get to a 7 note. We can only get to a flat 7 for the full diminished, or a flat 7 for the half diminished. Again, with something like major diminished, I mean, yeah, just because 24 note key, chord building formula doesn't let me make it, that doesn't mean 12 note formula doesn't let me create something like that. Major diminished works. Then I'm just using the 24, I mean, the 12 note formula to create it. I know that I can create that scale. I know I'm a believer that, it's given. You encounter some funky sounds the crazier you make things and the more off resolve you go. But we can do anything with the chromatics. We can do anything through chord inversions. Now, given close position chords like this one, they come with dissonance, but it's still something that we can use and we can shape to sound good. Maybe not for entire songs, of course, but for little parts in songs to where we're trying to do that kind of theming, doing that kind of sound, doing that kind of emphasis, shaping that kind of feel, and then moving on, because everything takes you to something else. And things can always be changed part to part as the theory allows for it, and as creative as you can get with it and make it work. So, all right. Yeah, eventually this time capsule formula would lead us. This is one of the things that, of course, helped shape major keys and helped shape, what we could do with key formulas. Finding that diminished that diminished formula and how it didn't work with the most resolved positions, probably even made for interesting things before major key was the big thing. Probably made for some very, you can even get pretty sounds out of it. I'll prove it in the next lesson. But yes, it's like I'm saying, every time we move away from major is made to be to where we have the positions of most resolve. What do I mean by that? One note's lining up with 5 notes. So the further we get away from major, I mean, the less resolved things are going to sound. It's just kind of how music works. Those positionings are what harmonize the best. The 1 and the 5 are very important to chord building. Oh, also in the last lesson, one more correction. I did the correction for the next video, but in the last video, I've talked about standard 5 enough, but of course you take the 1 note from the 1 key with the G, you take the 5 notes from the G key, but you plug in the D-type formula. All of the D-type formulas, 1 notes will line up with. That'll be the 5 notes for the G key. I think I said that a little iffy in the last video, so I kind of wanted to say that again. Now I'll move on from it. Alright, but yeah, I mean, any key formula, even the real close chromatic positioning formulas, Well, they can be broken down. I mean, you don't get a lot of notes that form chords that way, but they can be broken down to build little parts and songs that actually sound really good. And if you allow for standard 5, it can actually be intensified. So we have options with even things like that. So anything can be used. It's how much of it do you want to use? How, what kind of sound do you want to get out of it? But anything can be used. But yeah, I don't want this video to go on too much longer. We've talked about everything I wanted to touch upon. We will get into more alternative building theories as we go along. We've definitely got more to talk about. Check out the Mike George channel for more information on things that really break the major. Like if you want to really have a good understanding of the circles. I mean, he'll talk about the circles, third circles, like he breaks them all down. He does like to divide up the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths for his lessons rather than seeing it as being the reverse of them. But it's because he needs you to see certain things. Like I like his perspectives. He does a lot of what I do with the perspective thing, to where you break it down one way, but you break it down another way. And I've been talking about numbered patterns. That's somebody who actually knows how to line them up. That's one of the people who does things like that. It's amazing. Again, you have to find those videos. That's not all this guy does, but it's somebody who has an understanding of things like that and has actually done it. So I figured I'd give him a mention for sure. But as for me, that's going to do it for this video. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you tuning in. Have fun with some of these. Oh, the last thing I could talk about, the Shambhala setup. This next video is going to be kind of my solution for not getting to Shambhala sooner. So, it's not going to have a false moving key. It doesn't have, like, any 3/4 timing, and specifically, Shambhala has a slow triplets part. And it doesn't have a covers outro medley. It's all just its original things. This next one's going to be. But it is working an extreme key formula, an 8-note key formula. Shambhala does not use its alts as resolve points. This one's got a couple of alts that it uses as resolve points. This one also pushes towards Shambhala, stays in its key, and just uses alts at times. This one's actually going to be, well, you could see it from a key formula of a flat 2, flat 3, from D. From D, there's other ways to see this, but from D, you could see it as a key formula of a flat 2, a flat 3, and it's also inserting a sharp 4/flat 5 as an insert, as a plug. So it makes for a very interesting key formula. But it's weird because it resolves to both kind of an E flat key, but it also resolves mainly to a D key. That's the main one. But we even have a B flat. I mean, every note gets used. It's a lot like Shambhala. Like it's 8 on, 4 off, but it will utilize every alt in some way, shape, or form. It will, and not overemphasizing them either. Proper ways, whether it be for a little chromatic emphasis or whether it be for a little touch of standard 5 application, just to give a little emphasis to a part, or whether it be, well, in this case, Shambhala doesn't do this. There's no resolve points in Shambhala's theory. This one has resolve points. It's got a way of resolving to the key of D. And then it's got this other little section that kind of mimics an E flat key. And I know you're thinking to yourself, half-step key alteration, huh? But it's diminished. It makes crazy things work. So it's fun to play out of. And this one was supposed to be just a little lesson like these other videos, to where I just slap something together and have some fun with some interesting sounds and how things work into each other. No, this thing became a keeper. This is a new song. This is total up my alley. I love it. I'm keeping it. I'm hoping it continues and becomes just a little bit more than what it is. I want a 3/4 part. I want an outro. They just haven't came to me yet, so it doesn't exist yet. Still doesn't exist yet. But hopes for the future, creation, song building, having fun. Alright, but again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Keep on rocking. Hope you enjoyed. And alright, I'll do it till the next one. And I will be looking forward to the next one. This will be a little song building lesson off of something extreme. This is going to be a kind of a little Shambhala lesson. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Alright, thank you as always. Alright.